What's up, everyone? Brian Shea from Game Informer. Today we're going to be cracking open and building the Marvel vs. Capcom 2 cabinet from Arcade1UP. Arcade1UP was kind enough to send it over, and we're going to check it out in just a moment. But first, let me give you a tour of what I have so far. So this is the Capcom Legacy Edition cabinet. This features 12 games from Capcom. 5 of them are Street Fighter 2, but you know, the rest of them are pretty diverse list of games from Capcom. We have the Mortal Kombat cabinet. This is actually one of the first Arcade1UP cabinets I think they did. This has Mortal Kombat 1, 2, and Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3. This is where I plan on putting the Marvel vs. Capcom 2 cabinet. But if you turn over here, we now have the sports section, which is NBA Jam. This has NBA Jam Tournament Edition, and NBA Hang Time. And then over here in the corner, we have the NFL Blitz cabinet. It says NFL Blitz 99, and NFL Blitz 2000 Gold Edition. And this is my most recent edition, and you can read my full impressions on GameInformer.com for this one.
Awesome. Let's crack open the new one.
But as you can imagine, they packaged these things up pretty well. I only had one problem, and that was with my NBA Jam cabinet. There was a slight scuff out of the box. I'm just going to set these aside. I don't think we need these for a little bit. Alright, so we got it all set up. I saw a video on YouTube. I wish I knew who it was off the top of my head, but basically this edge does not line up perfectly with the deck. So somebody recommended cutting a piece of the foam and placing it underneath there. And even so, it was still a little bit below, so I didn't screw this in all the way, but it's still stable enough. And yeah, it feels good on the hands now. I love how bright the marquee is. The screen looks great. Obviously the music is good. You can really give some oomph to this volume here. I also like that this has a headphone jack, which is something that they just recently started doing. I was saying this earlier while I was building it. This is one of the more involved builds. It was this and the NFL Blitz one were the more involved builds of the 5 that I've done. Those are the 2 most recent ones. So it stands to reason that as these games are getting more and more advanced, thanks to Arcade1UP being in the game for longer, that the builds are getting more enhanced, and as a result you're getting higher quality builds, but they're just taking a little bit longer to make. You'll also note that this cabinet is substantially taller than the other fighting game cabinets that I have. That was probably a piece of feedback that Arcade1UP got, that like some of their cabinets are just too short for an average person. Like even me being 5'11", I'm part of the top of the screen is cut off for me if I stand up like this. I have to kind of stand back like this in order to see it fully. It's never been a huge problem, but for somebody who's taller than me, I could see why it would be a problem. This, it's no problem at all. The marquee is slanted in a way that doesn't jut out over your view, and it's also, again, a taller cabinet.
What's your experience level with MVC?
I loved, like, X-Men vs. Street Fighter was actually my introduction into the Versus series, so I was a fan of it for quite a bit. But I played Marvel vs. Capcom 1, I owned it on Dreamcast. Marvel vs. Capcom 2, I never owned, I just rented it a bunch, and then eventually when it was like super expensive, I found a copy for Dreamcast. So I do have a copy now, but I never owned it. I remember I went to the arcade at a campground that my parents and I used to frequent in like summers back when I was a kid, and I found X-Men versus Street Fighter, and I was like, what is this? I was like, oh, this is the coolest thing I've ever seen in my life. Overall, you know, it's a very early impressions, but I am impressed by it. I think that there's some stuff that needs to be fixed via update, and you know, I had to modify the build just a little bit, but overall it seems like a pretty awesome package. I need to dig into these other games. That said, I would love to have this come to console. I mean, that's kind of been my my hope for all these, like, you know, like NFL Blitz. Yeah, hopefully they release those onto console as well, now that like the NFL's clearly shown that they're open to it. Same thing for Marvel vs. Capcom 2. Hopefully it gets made available in some digital storefront. Thank you so much for coming along with me on this journey of building this system and kind of digging in for my very first match. I hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you next time.